Welcome back to Justification. My name is Linwood Jackson Jr., and I'm again thankful to be welcomed into your mobile devices, into your homes, into your thoughts, and into your feelings. As we discuss this subject of justification, I'm hoping that it does more than impress upon you the need for a care of self, both personally and devotionally. There are a lot of issues that we can touch on. A lot of things branch out. This is a very real topic once you get down to the grit. Once you get past all of the terms, once you get past all of the illustrations, then you can start to see things being brought to life through the depictions that are being given. These terms, this philosophy, these illustrations, they are pointing to a reality. They're pointing to a very real, living concept that, when applied, is to allow us to be the human being that we are. Again, intimately, personally, and devotionally or spiritually, as you could say, or spiritually minded. Our first take, although appearing physical, is mental. And in our last discussion, we spent time together talking about the guidance that is necessary. We are to guide our devotional conversation. We are to guide it in a way that we're not interfering with it. We are to guide it in a way where we are letting it breathe without us consuming the air within it. And that's difficult because that's what we are brought up to be traditionally. When you think about the context of religion and of the idea that we have for what our religion should be. Whatever that religion is, it can be based on the Bible, it could be based on our diet, it could be based on how we dress, it could be based on what we see. We want to constrain and we want to control. And some things we should constrain and control. Other things, when it comes to our mind, when it comes to the diet of our mind, when it comes to the fabric of our mind, when it comes to the educating of our being, the more we try to hold on, or the more we try to guide, the less productive it will be. And that sounds like an absolute contradiction. Because when we were last together, we read in the book of Proverbs. Actually, let's go back. Let's go back to the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs, chapter 23 and verse 19. Proverbs 23 and verse 19, that very first portion of that verse says, "Hear thou, my son, and be wise." How? How is one to be wise? "And guide thine heart in the way." There is a level of guidance that is supposed to go into our personal devotional conversation. And while guiding something can cause friction, there is a guidance where there is no friction, and there is that type of guidance of letting go. While you're guiding, you're letting it go. You're guiding to the point of let go. You're guiding it in a way where it's able to control itself automatically without assistance. Thinking about our human body, our heart beats. Our heart beats. We cannot stop it. It goes. We can't stop it. It stops on its own. We can't feel our body producing the input for that heart to beat. We don't know that it's going on. There is an unconscious level of consciousness that we are not aware of, and yet it's happening. That translates to how we should handle our devotional conversation. This is the guidance. This is the guidance that we should be giving to our devotional conversation. The same way that our body unconsciously guides itself, causing no harm to it. It is the same way that we are to guide our devotional conversation and our devotional conscience also, causing no harm to it. And there's a trick to that. And the illustration is portrayed perfectly through our body. Our bodies are very interesting and are very helpful for understanding the illustration that the Bible is painting and giving to us, is that this physical body has within it a mind that we are not conscious of. This mind that we are not conscious of, it functions without us noticing it. There is a function for our veins circulating blood that we don't even feel it, but it's happening. We don't know that it's happening, but it is. When we walk, there are functions that are happening that we are not conscious of. We're just walking. When we're breathing, when our heart is beating, when we're eating, our digestive system is putting forth functions that we are not conscious of, nor do we understand how they're happening, but they're happening. And they're happening to the point where we don't notice it. We are living in a way where we're guiding them, but at the same time, we're not operating them. We're not controlling that guidance. That guidance is unknown to us, and it's while it's happening under the scene, it is a major scene, and it's allowing us to function and to operate without being concerned about what is so much visceral, but more with what is external and physical, so that we can enjoy our day. It's the same thing with the body of our faith, with the body of our faith's intellect. We are to live in a way, and that living is carrying our devotional self, carrying our spiritual mind. We are to live in a way where we are not getting in the way of that mind's movement, of its operation. We are to live in a way where we are guiding it, true, but to where that guidance isn't felt, to where we are not constraining it, to where we are letting it guide its own self without thought, without it having to think, I should rather say, and without us having to believe that we have to think for it, because that's just what we're trained. That's how we're trained. From the moment we enter into traditional religious belief, we are conditioned to automatically care to control our experience. We're not looking at the experience as a body, as we should. As we should. As much as we want to believe that we dictate our body, as much as we want to believe that we are our body, we are not. Our body has a mind and function of its own that is unconscious to us. This unconscious happening is what allows us to consciously experience what we know to be life on a daily basis. The same thing with the body of our faith has to take place. We have to be able to have enough confidence in that body of faith for it to guide itself without us having to control it. Because the moment that we do, the moment that you ever start thinking about your breathing, you will never stop thinking about your breathing. The moment we start to begin to control our devotional conversation, that is the moment that we will constrain it and try to morph it to be what we perceive it should be, instead of allowing it to be what it will. And that's the point. The point is that we have a body of faith that we did not give to ourselves. This body of faith, I believe and always will believe that it is a gift. It is a gift given for the resilient mind. It is a gift given for the resilient human being that cares to better what is within. It is this gift that has to be guided, and in a way that is specific as the internals of the body are guided. Which reminds me of a verse in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 4 and verse 3 and 4. Jeremiah 4, chapter 4 and verse 3 and 4 says, "For thus saith the Lord to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground, and sow not among thorns. Circumcise yourselves to the Lord, and take away the foreskins of your heart, you men of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem." And this is important because a key word, circumcise, is necessary for justification. The reason for guiding the conversation, as the Bible says, is for the purpose of circumcision. We will get more into this concept of what this actually means. But for now, I want you to just think about this illustration of circumcision, of something that has to be cut away, something that has to be done away with. And it has to be done away with from your heart. When we talk about guiding, we're talking about an experience that is contrary to what you may practically know, to what I may practically think or believe. There is an idea that we have of our devotional conversation. There is an idea we have of the direction that we believe our devotional conversation should be in. There is an idea that we have of these things due to what has been placed, or what we place within our thoughts, within our feelings about where our spirituality should be, how we should define it, where it should go, where it should not be, where it should come from, and to whom it is attributed to. These thoughts or these sentiments, they interfere with the flow of the body of our faith. These are meats, these are liquids, these are dietary options, these are prescriptions, these are antibiotics, these are things that we are using to dictate the flow of our body instead of letting it develop naturally. Guidance is for the purpose of circumcision. And the Bible is not stupid, right? So if the Bible is bringing up an illustration of circumcision, that means that the Bible is wanting us to think about what needs to be circumcised. The Bible is telling us about what needs to be taken away from our heart, or wants us to think about what we need to be removed from, or what we need to remove from, or what needs to be removed from us, what we need to remove from us. Guidance, or guiding the conversation, is a way of illustrating a point that through guidance there is a knowing. Our bodies know what to do because it has taken the time to learn how to guide itself. The instruction within it that allows it to function flawlessly, even when sick. It is an instruction that it has due to it taking the time to understand how to run and how to function and how to operate in any circumstance. It guided itself. You could say we played a part in the forming of an organism somehow, but underneath all of that, within the forming of that organism, are elements in a process that still had to be decoded by the organism itself, consciously and unconsciously. We have to take this and place it into our devotional life. Guiding our conversation doesn't mean holding on to it or constraining it. The better way to think about guiding our conversation is guiding it into a personal knowing of itself. This guidance into a personal knowing of itself allows for circumcision. It allows for the cutting off of certain elements that are healthy or unhealthy in a negative way. Because we don't know what is healthy and we do not know what is unhealthy until we experience it, until we just let it be. Guidance allows for knowing. Knowing allows for a knowledge that we can apply to our thoughts and to our feelings to understand what to separate from and what to further draw to. For us, no one is you. I'm not you. Nothing that you hear is so relatable to you that you have to abandon anything you believe for it. We're all living for a particular reason and for a particular purpose, and we are all living to understand that. And with that understanding, there is a verse that we will continually be drawn to. But this verse is found in the book of Romans chapter 2. We do get our answer. Paul gives us our answer. Romans chapter 2 in verse 28 and 29. Paul gives us our answer. Romans chapter 2 verse 28 and 29 says, "For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh." So there's what we're trying to get at here. This is what we've been discussing and having a conversation about, is the fact that what is outward, this isn't what we're concerned with. The circumcision that we're thinking about should not be related to what is outward. And again, this term circumcision, we will deal with it more in depth. But for now, continuing with the illustration, is Paul saying it is not outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew, which is one inwardly. And circumcision is what? And circumcision is that of the heart. Where? In the spirit, and not in the letter. Whose praise is of men and not of God. And this is the point or the aspect of justification that we will continually get to and review, and then get to and review until we can see just where we're going with this. The purpose of guiding the heart is for a purpose of circumcision. That circumcision is within. There are things that we believe we have to do in order to have a circumcised conversation. There are things that we believe we have to believe in order to have a conversation that is circumcised. There is a way to justify. Again, pay attention to the context of this term, justification. There are things that we have to do in order to justify our conversation, but the Bible is telling us otherwise. While we're going about an outward form of justification, an outward form of circumcision, the Bible is saying, no. Check that. Check it. Because what is to be justified, what is to be circumcised, is within. And a key to that circumcision is the guiding. There is a guiding for knowing. There is a guiding for respecting the precepts. There is a guiding for delighting in the philosophy within the Bible, to the point where then you can regard that word, to where then you can regard what it's meaning, its depth. You can regard it in a factual way that's relatable to your experience. And that's impressing, because it's allowing us to think about how we carry our devotional self in a very, very, very new context. The context of doing without doing. The context of guiding without guiding. It is the heart that has to be broken up. How can it be broken up? As it says in the book of Jeremiah. Even without digging into the Bible and practically thinking about this or rationalizing this, doing anything hands-on allows you to gain a knowledge of it so that you can store something for use later on. Allowing our conversation to guide itself. We are giving it, we are feeding it food so that it can function without us needing it. Or it needing us to control it or to constrain it for functioning. Psalms chapter 1 and verse 1 and 2 is pointing to something completely interesting and necessary about this experience that we are talking about. Psalms chapter 1 and verse 1 and 2 says, "Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is where? His delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night." There is guidance within our body due to our body knowing a law. Our body functions by a law. There is a law within our body that we are unconscious of, yet our body is conscious of it. There is a law within the Bible of the living God's words. The more we get familiar with those words, the more that we grow acquainted with that law, to live by it. Knowing it, growing more in love with it, allowing it to function through us, and that us, not necessarily us as living human beings, but that us being the being of our devotional conversation. Guiding our conversation through the Bible's words, or allowing the Bible's words to guide our conversation, setting up our conversation to meditate on those words, to take away something, is the acquiring of knowledge that can be exercised without us knowing that it is being exercised. Just like our physical bodies need food, so also the bodies of our faith, or the body of our faith, the body of our faith needs sustenance, needs nutrients, needs to be filled, needs to be satisfied. And just as our physical body cannot last without eating, as food is on our mind the moment we are hungry, so our devotional conscience and our conversations conscience is starving. And we know that it's starving because we've turned to accept whatever we believe the Bible has for us. We've turned to accept it. We believe that it can feed us. Well, we believe that it can feed us, and then the next instant, or the next instinct that we have, is to give the self of our faith away so that another can feed it for us. Or we believe that we have to constrain that self of our faith to where it can only eat what is rationed out, or what is allotted to it, or what we believe should be allotted to it. Our body, the body of our faith, needs food. Plain and simple. We listen to this, we do that. We have more names of pastors on our minds than we actually do of sentences or instruction within the Bible than anything else, because we are starving. The Bible is letting us know that the circumcision that is necessary is for the starving. If you are hungry, here is material for you to consume. And in a positive way. Daily we are consumers in a negative way. We are consumers consuming strictly and for all purposes to just consume. There's nothing gained. There is a lot lost. We don't know it, but there is nothing gained. We are strictly just consuming. The Bible is telling us that we need to be more than consumers. We can actually be positive consumers, consuming the words that are within the Bible, exercising them for a knowing, meditating on them so that we can guide without guiding, so that we can give to the body of our faith material to exercise without us having to force that exercising. Just like our natural body can handle itself without us knowing it, our spiritual body, our devotional body, can handle itself without us knowing it. We just have to learn how to let go and how to let words dictate the experience. We have to grow comfortable giving our experience to words. We have to grow comfortable giving our experience to words. There is nothing, there is no physical place that we can point to. There is no physical individual that we can point to give us that stimulus of continuing. And logically, the living God has left us words for a reason. If the living God was, if there was more, there would be more. You know what I'm saying? We have these words for a reason. We have been left these words for a reason. And that reason is for an experience. And further, that reason is further articulated in the book of Proverbs. Our final verse, book of Proverbs, chapter 10 and verse 17. He is in the way of life that keepeth instruction, but he that refuseth reproof erreth. Again, he is in the way of life that keepeth instruction. And that's a key word, instruction, because when we think back to our conversation minutes ago, as we began our time together in this day, we began talking about our body as understanding itself, as using the elements within itself to form what it should be, and having an encoded knowledge to use to be what it should be. And that encoded knowledge, we can say, is instruction. That instruction that our body gained from itself, it gained by exercising itself in a way that it could retain knowledge of what it could be and what it should be, which led to the development of an organism, which led to the development of us as we are. It is that instruction that makes our body special. And it is the instruction that our spiritual frame receives that makes it special. It is to receive that instruction by meditating on the words within the Bible. Meditating on those words to retain a knowledge of them so that it can keep that knowledge for exercising, for testing, for love. Growing familiar with the living God's voice to know that you know what you are honoring. It is that instruction that leads to the way of life, as we were told in the book of Proverbs, guide in the way. Well, that way is the way of life, and that way of life is through instruction. So remember, instruct and guide for knowing. Until next time.